The spreadsheet glowed on Lauren's laptop screen like a confession under interrogation lights. I wasn't supposed to see it, wasn't supposed to be in her home office at midnight, but insomnia and a suspicious wife make for dangerous combinations. The numbers didn't lie, unlike my wife of 12 years. Dinner expenses, $347. Hotel, $289. Gift, $156. All charged to her corporate card, all on days she claimed to be working late at the office, all with someone who definitely wasn't me. My name is Brendan Ortiz, and I'm a 40-year-old software architect who just discovered his CFO wife has been conducting her own private merger and acquisition. The bitter irony? She's been using company funds to finance her affair while lecturing me about our household budget. I scrolled through months of entries, each line item a small betrayal. Lauren King. She kept her maiden name for professional reasons, had been methodical about her infidelity. Color-coded spreadsheets, expense categories, even a separate calendar. She approached cheating like a quarterly earnings report. The kitchen door creaked. I minimized the screen and pretended to check my phone. "Brendan, what are you doing up?" Lauren's voice carried that familiar edge of annoyance, as if my existence inconvenienced her. "Couldn't sleep. You left your laptop open." I gestured casually at the screen. "Just closing it for you." Honey. She moved quickly, too quickly, shutting the laptop with a sharp snap. "That's confidential company information. You shouldn't be looking at it." Honey. "Sorry, didn't realize dinner receipts were state secrets." Her gray eyes narrowed. Lauren had the kind of beauty that photographs well for corporate headshots. Sharp cheekbones, perfectly styled blonde hair, expensive clothes that screamed success. But up close, in our kitchen's harsh LED lighting, I could see the calculation behind every expression. "I have an early meeting tomorrow. We should both get some sleep." I nodded, playing the obedient husband. "Of course. Big day ahead?" "Board presentation. The quarterly numbers need to be perfect." She paused at the kitchen doorway. "And Brendan? Stay out of my office. Some things are private." After she left, I sat alone in our granite and stainless steel kitchen, surrounded by the trappings of upper-middle-class success. We'd built this life together. The colonial house in Newton, the German cars, the investment portfolio. Now I was discovering it was all built on lies. But here's the thing about being married to a CFO. You learn to read between the lines. You understand that every transaction tells a story. Every expense reveals a truth. And Lauren's truth was about to become very expensive. I opened my own laptop and began my research. If my wife wanted to play with numbers, I'd give her an audit she'd never forget. The next morning arrived gray and cold, typical for October in Massachusetts. Lauren had already left for her early meeting, leaving behind only the lingering scent of her expensive perfume and a coffee cup in the sink. Because apparently, CFOs don't do dishes. My phone buzzed. A text from Nina Rodriguez, my closest friend at Dataflow Solutions. "Emergency coffee meeting? Drama at the office." Nina worked in our marketing department and had an uncanny ability to detect corporate drama before it hit the fan. If she was calling an emergency meeting, something big was happening. We met at Cafe Nero, near our office building. Nina was already there, clutching a large coffee like a lifeline. At 35, she had the nervous energy of someone who survived on caffeine and office gossip. "You look terrible," she said by way of greeting. "Thanks. You mentioned drama? Lauren's company is acquiring us." Nina's words hit like a physical blow. "The announcement goes out this afternoon. Apparently your wife is going to be our new CFO." I stared at her. "That's impossible. She would have told me." "Would she?" Nina raised an eyebrow. "When's the last time Lauren told you anything about her work?" She was right. Lauren had been increasingly secretive about her job, claiming confidentiality agreements and corporate policies. Now I knew why. "There's more," Nina continued. "The rumor is that there will be significant layoffs, department consolidations. And Brendan, your department is first on the list." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Not only was my wife cheating on me, she was about to fire me. The symmetry was almost beautiful in its cruelty. "Who's her point person on the acquisition?" "Some VP named Evan Dorsey, goes by Van. Apparently he's been working very closely with Lauren on the integration." Nina's expression was carefully neutral, but her meaning was clear. Van Dorsey. I'd heard that name before. In Lauren's phone conversations she thought I couldn't hear. Late-night calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. Strategic planning sessions that lasted until midnight. What do you know about him? Tall, expensive suits, drives a Tesla. The kind of guy who calls everyone buddy and thinks it makes him charming. Nina paused. He was at our office yesterday, actually. Spent a lot of time in conference rooms with Lauren. I thanked Nina and walked back to my office, my mind racing. The acquisition explained everything. The secret meetings, the expense reports, the late nights. Lauren hadn't just been having an affair. She'd been planning to destroy my career while she was at it. But two could play the corporate game. I had advantages Lauren didn't know about. 13 years in software development, security clearances, and most importantly, access to systems she assumed I couldn't navigate. I spent the morning documenting everything. Screenshots of emails, copies of personnel files, recordings of meetings where my department's future was discussed. If Lauren wanted to conduct business like a hostile takeover, I'd treat it like one. The official announcement came at 2 p.m. Lauren stood at the front of our main conference room, looking every inch the successful executive in her tailored navy suit. Van Dorsey stood beside her, and I finally had a face to put with the name. He was exactly as Nina had described, tall, confident, with the kind of smile that suggested he was always in on a joke you hadn't heard yet. When he spoke about synergies and optimization opportunities, his eyes found mine in the crowd. There was something predatory in his gaze, as if he knew exactly who I was and what this meant for me. We're excited about the opportunities this merger creates, Lauren said, her voice carrying across the room with practiced authority. While there will be some organizational changes, we're confident that the best talent will find their place in our new structure. The best talent, I almost laughed. She was standing next to her lover, announcing the acquisition that would eliminate my job, and talking about talent. After the meeting, I lingered in the conference room as people filed out. Lauren was gathering her papers when she finally noticed me. Brendan, I was hoping to talk to you about this at home. Were you? When? Between your strategic planning sessions and late-night budget meetings? Her composure slipped for just a moment. I don't know what you're implying, but this is a professional matter. The acquisition makes sense for both companies. And the layoffs, do those make sense too? Van Dorsey approached us, his smile firmly in place. You must be Brendan. I've heard so much about you. I bet you have, I thought. All good things, I hope. Lauren speaks very highly of your technical skills. I'm sure we'll find the right place for you in the new organization. His tone suggested that the right place might be the unemployment line. I appreciate the confidence, I said. It's nice to know that some people value loyalty and commitment. Lauren's face flushed slightly. Van's smile faltered. Well, Van said, I should let you two discuss this privately. Lauren, I'll see you at dinner tonight. We have those budget projections to review. After he left, Lauren and I stood alone in the conference room. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows, casting long shadows across the polished table. Brendan, I know this is difficult. Difficult, I interrupted. My wife is about to fire me, and I find out about it in a company-wide meeting. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. It's not personal, it's business. Everything is personal, Lauren, especially when you're sleeping with your business partner. The words hung in the air between us. Lauren's carefully constructed composure cracked, revealing something raw and desperate underneath. I don't know what you think you know. I know about the expense reports, the hotel charges, the dinners. I know about Van. I stepped closer. What I don't know is why. Was our marriage really so terrible that you had to burn it down along with my career? She straightened, and the executive mask slipped back into place. Our marriage has been over for years. We've just been going through the motions. At least I found the courage to move on. Courage? Is that what you call it? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know what courage looks like, Lauren? It looks like honesty. It looks like having a conversation instead of conducting a corporate assassination. I tried to talk to you. You never listened. When? When did you try? She couldn't answer, because we both knew she hadn't. Lauren had made her decision in boardrooms and hotel suites, with spreadsheets and strategic plans. She'd reduced our marriage to a line item in her personal profit and loss statement. I want a divorce, she said quietly. I figured. What's the timeline? Does it coincide with the layoffs, or are you planning separate announcements? Don't be cruel. Cruel? I gathered my things and headed for the door. Lauren, you haven't seen Cruel yet, but you will. That night, I sat in my home office, the small room Lauren had grudgingly allowed me to set up in our finished basement, and began my investigation. If there's one thing 13 years in software development teaches you, it's how to find information people don't want you to find. I started with public records, corporate filings, SEC documents, property transfers. Van Dorsey lived in a downtown condo worth $2.3 million, drove a Tesla Model S, and had a boat registered in Boston Harbor. His LinkedIn profile showed a career trajectory that screamed ambition over competence. Lots of lateral moves, short tenures, and buzzword-heavy descriptions of his achievements. But it was his social media that proved most interesting. Van was the type who documented everything: expensive dinners, weekend trips, business meetings, and there, mixed in with his carefully curated lifestyle posts, were breadcrumbs of his relationship with my wife. A photo from a restaurant I recognized from Lauren's expense reports. A shot of champagne glasses with the caption, "Celebrating New Partnerships." A picture of a hotel pool with the comment, "Working hard, playing harder." Each post was innocent enough individually, but together they painted a clear picture. I cross-referenced the dates with Lauren's calendar, her credit card statements, her mileage reports. The pattern was unmistakable. For the past 8 months, my wife had been living a double life, and she'd been using company resources to fund it. My phone rang. Lauren's name appeared on the screen. "Working late again?" she asked when I answered. "Just catching up on some projects. You?" "Budget meeting ran long. I'll probably be here until midnight." I checked Van's Instagram. He'd posted a photo 20 minutes ago, a wine glass, and the caption, "Late Night Strategy Session." The location tag showed Mistral, an upscale restaurant in the South End. "Well, don't work too hard," I said. "See you in the morning." After hanging up, I drove to Mistral. Lauren's BMW was in the valet parking area, along with a silver Tesla I recognized from Van's photos. Through the restaurant's windows, I could see them at a corner table, leaning close in conversation that looked anything but professional. I didn't confront them. Instead, I took photos with my phone, documenting the time, date, and location. If Lauren wanted to play corporate games, I'd build a case file that would make the SEC proud. Over the next week, I became a part-time private investigator. I tracked their movements, documented their meetings, and slowly built a comprehensive picture of their relationship. What I discovered was worse than simple adultery. It was a systematic betrayal that went to the heart of everything we'd built together. Lauren had been using our joint credit cards to pay for personal expenses she later reimbursed through fraudulent corporate charges. She'd been sharing confidential information about my department's performance, giving Van inside knowledge that helped structure the acquisition. Most damaging of all, she'd been actively undermining my reputation in meetings I wasn't invited to attend. I found emails where she questioned my technical competence, suggested I was resistant to change, and implied that my departure would be beneficial for team morale. She'd been building a case for my termination for months, long before the acquisition was announced. But Lauren had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. She saw me as the passive, accommodating husband who'd never fight back. She didn't realize that 13 years of marriage had taught me to read her tells, understand her weaknesses, and anticipate her moves. Nina met me for coffee again, this time at a small place in Cambridge where we were unlikely to run into anyone from work. "You look like hell," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Thanks, you always know exactly what to say." "I'm serious, Brendan. When's the last time you slept?" I couldn't remember. The past week had been a blur of surveillance, documentation, and discovery. Each new piece of evidence felt like a small victory, but the cumulative weight of Lauren's betrayal was crushing. "I found something," I said, sliding a folder across the table. Nina opened it and whistled softly. "Jesus, Brendan, how long have you been working on this?" "Since the announcement. Maybe longer. I think I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to admit it." The folder contained printouts of emails, bank statements, hotel receipts, and corporate filings. It was a comprehensive dossier of Lauren and Van's relationship, complete with timelines, financial records, and photographic evidence. "This is thorough," Nina said. "What are you planning to do with it?" "I'm not sure yet, but Lauren thinks she can destroy my career and walk away clean." "She's wrong." Nina closed the folder and looked at me carefully. "Be careful, Brendan. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but don't do anything that makes you the villain in this story." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that revenge has a way of consuming people. Lauren and Van are digging their own graves. The acquisition is already running into problems. There are questions about the financial projections, and word is getting out about their relationship. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people self-destruct." But I wasn't interested in letting Lauren self-destruct. I wanted to be the one holding the match when her world caught fire. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The following Monday, I received an email from HR requesting a meeting to discuss my transition options. The corporate euphemism was almost insulting. They couldn't even be honest about firing me. The meeting was scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. Lauren would be there, along with Van, the HR director, and the head of legal. It was meant to be a routine termination meeting, complete with severance packages and non-disclosure agreements. Instead, it was going to be the opening shot in my counter-offensive. I spent Tuesday night preparing my presentation. If Lauren wanted to treat our marriage like a business transaction, I'd give her a business presentation she'd never forget. I organized my evidence into PowerPoint slides, complete with charts, graphs, and financial projections. I calculated the cost of her affair to both companies, documented the ethical violations, and outlined the legal implications of her actions. It was, without question, the most important presentation of my career. Wednesday arrived cold and rainy. I dressed carefully, my best suit, a conservative tie, polished shoes. If I was going to destroy my wife's career, I wanted to look professional doing it. The meeting was held in the main conference room, the same one where Lauren had announced the acquisition. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at the head of the table with Van beside her. The HR director, Patricia Wells, sat across from them with a stack of documents. The legal counsel, David Chen, was reviewing something on his laptop. "Brendan," Patricia said as I entered, "thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." I sat down and placed my laptop on the table. "Thank you for arranging this meeting. I have some things I'd like to discuss as well." Lauren frowned. "This is just a routine transition meeting, Brendan. We're here to discuss your severance package and next steps." "Actually," I said, opening my laptop, "I think we need to discuss some other issues first. Issues that affect both companies and everyone in this room." Van leaned forward. "I'm not sure what you're getting at, but I'm getting at fraud," I said quietly. "Corporate fraud, ethics violations, and breach of fiduciary duty. Would you like me to start with the financial irregularities or the conflicts of interest?" The room went silent. Patricia and David exchanged glances. Lauren's face had gone pale. "I don't know what you think you're doing," Lauren said, "but this is neither the time nor the place. Actually, this is exactly the time and place." I clicked to my first slide. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present my findings regarding the relationship between CFO Lauren King and VP Evan Dorsey and its impact on the pending acquisition." For the next 30 minutes, I methodically destroyed them. I showed the hotel receipts, the dinner charges, the suspicious travel patterns. I documented how Lauren had shared confidential information about my department, giving Van's company an unfair advantage in structuring the deal. I outlined how they'd used corporate resources to fund their personal relationship, and how Lauren had violated her fiduciary duty to her shareholders. By the time I finished, Van was sweating through his expensive shirt, and Lauren looked like she might be sick. "These are serious allegations," David said finally. "Do you have documentation to support all of this?" I handed him a USB drive. "Everything is there: bank records, emails, photographs, timeline analysis. I've also prepared copies for the SEC, the State Attorney General's office, and both companies' boards of directors." Patricia was frantically taking notes. "Mr. Ortiz, are you saying that you believe Miss King and Mr. Dorsey have engaged in securities fraud?" "I'm saying that they've used material non-public information for personal gain, misappropriated corporate resources, and violated multiple federal regulations governing mergers and acquisitions. The fraud charges would be up to prosecutors to determine." Lauren finally found her voice. "This is ridiculous. Brendan is obviously upset about the divorce, and he's trying to—" "The divorce?" I interrupted. "You mean the divorce you haven't filed for yet? The one you've been planning in secret while lying to me about working late?" I clicked to another slide. "Or do you mean this divorce?" The slide showed a document from Lauren's lawyer, dated 3 weeks earlier, outlining strategy for maximizing her settlement while minimizing my claims to joint assets. She'd been planning to leave me with nothing while she started her new life with Van. "How did you get that?" she whispered. "The same way I got everything else. You taught me to be thorough, Lauren. You taught me that every transaction leaves a trail. You just never thought I'd be smart enough to follow it." Van stood up abruptly. "I don't have to listen to this. These accusations are baseless, and—" "Sit down," David said sharply. "Mr. Dorsey, I strongly advise you not to leave this room until we've had a chance to review this information." Van sat down, his corporate confidence finally cracking. Patricia looked at me. "Mr. Ortiz, what outcome are you looking for here?" I closed my laptop and smiled. "I want justice, Patricia. I want accountability. And I want everyone in this room to understand that actions have consequences." Lauren was staring at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not fear, but something like recognition. For the first time in our marriage, she was seeing me clearly. "The termination meeting is over," I continued. "I'll be returning to my position while these matters are investigated. Miss King and Mr. Dorsey, on the other hand, should probably contact their lawyers." I stood up and gathered my things. At the door, I turned back. "Oh, and Lauren, I'll be staying at my brother's place until this is resolved. The house is yours for now, but I wouldn't get too comfortable. Something tells me your financial situation is about to become very complicated." As I walked out, I could hear Patricia already on the phone with the company's outside counsel. The audit had begun, and Lauren was about to discover what a real hostile takeover looked like. The news broke on Friday. "Local CFO under investigation for securities fraud," ran as the headline in the Boston Business Journal. By Monday morning, it was picked up by the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and CNBC. Lauren King, the rising star of corporate finance, had become a cautionary tale about mixing business with pleasure. I watched the coverage from my brother Mike's apartment in Somerville. Mike was a union electrician with strong opinions about corporate executives and even stronger coffee. He'd offered me his couch and his support without asking too many questions, which was exactly what I needed. "Your wife's on TV again," he called from the kitchen. I looked up from my laptop to see Lauren hurrying through a crowd of reporters outside her office building. She had her head down, her lawyer beside her, and the hunted look of someone whose carefully constructed world was collapsing in real time. "Former wife," I corrected. "She filed the papers yet?" "Yesterday, citing irreconcilable differences," I laughed. "I guess fraud and adultery count as irreconcilable." Mike brought me coffee and sat down in his recliner. "You feel good about this, about what you did to her?" It was a fair question. Did I feel good about destroying the woman I'd once loved? About ending her career and possibly sending her to prison? "I feel like justice was served," I said finally. "Lauren made her choices. She chose to cheat, to lie, to steal, and to try to destroy my life in the process. I just made sure there were consequences." And Van Dorsey had been fired within hours of my presentation. His company had terminated him for cause, which meant no severance, no benefits, and a scandal that would follow him for the rest of his career. He'd also been named as a co-defendant in the SEC investigation. Van was collateral damage. If he hadn't been sleeping with my wife and helping her commit fraud, he'd still have his job. Mike nodded slowly. "Just make sure the revenge doesn't eat you alive, brother. I've seen it happen." But wasn't interested in moving on. Not yet. Lauren and Van had tried to destroy me systematically, professionally, and personally. They'd planned to leave me with nothing while they built their new life on the ruins of my old one. Turnabout, as they say, is fair play. The investigation moved quickly. The SEC doesn't mess around when it comes to merger fraud, and the evidence I'd provided was comprehensive and damning. Within 2 weeks, both companies had suspended the acquisition pending the outcome of the investigation. Lauren was placed on administrative leave, and Van was facing criminal charges in addition to civil penalties. But the legal consequences were just the beginning. The real damage was social and professional. Lauren's reputation, built over 15 years of careful networking and strategic career moves, was destroyed overnight. Her friends stopped calling. Her professional contacts distanced themselves. The corporate boards she'd served on quietly asked for her resignation. I, on the other hand, had become something of a folk hero. The story of the underdog husband who brought down his cheating CFO wife resonated with people. I received job offers from companies that valued my technical skills and my newfound reputation for integrity. My LinkedIn profile was flooded with connection requests and messages of support. Nina met me for lunch at a small Italian place in the North End. She'd been promoted to marketing director in the wake of the acquisition's collapse, and she looked happier than I'd seen her in years. "You know, people are calling you the audit avenger, right?" she said over pasta. "That's ridiculous." "Is it? You single-handedly exposed one of the biggest corporate scandals in Boston this year. There's already talk of a book deal." I'd been approached by several publishers and journalists interested in telling my story. The narrative was compelling. Faithful husband discovers wife's affair, uncovers massive fraud, brings down corrupt executives. It had all the elements of a bestseller. "I'm not interested in being famous," I said. I just wanted Lauren to face consequences for what she did. Mission accomplished. Did you see the latest news? I hadn't. Nina pulled out her phone and showed me an article from that morning's Globe. King faces federal indictment in merger fraud case. Lauren was looking at serious prison time. The federal prosecutors had built their case on the evidence I'd provided, and they were confident of conviction. Her high-powered legal team was already talking about plea bargains. "And how do you feel about that?" Nina asked. "I feel like she made her choices. Now she gets to live with them." But the truth was more complicated. Despite everything Lauren had done, despite the betrayal and the lies and the systematic attempt to destroy my life, I still felt echoes of the love I'd once had for her. Seeing her facing federal prison was satisfying in an abstract sense, but it also felt like watching a building burn with someone still inside. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Lauren's legal troubles had destroyed her negotiating position, and her assets were frozen pending the outcome of the criminal case. I ended up with the house, most of our joint assets, and a settlement that would keep me comfortable for years to come. Van, meanwhile, had disappeared from public view. His condo was in foreclosure, his boat had been repossessed, and he'd moved back in with his parents in suburban Connecticut. The last I heard, he was working at a car dealership and facing bankruptcy. 6 months after that conference room confrontation, I was sitting in my home office, no longer relegated to the basement, when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see Lauren standing on my front porch. She looked different. Thinner, older, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of her usual executive attire. Her hair was shorter, and she wasn't wearing makeup. She looked, for the first time in years, like a real person instead of a corporate avatar. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Hello, Brendan." "Lauren, I thought you weren't supposed to contact me directly. My lawyer said it would be okay. I just wanted to talk." We stood there for a moment, separated by the threshold of the house we'd once shared. The autumn air was crisp, and leaves were falling in the yard we'd planted together years ago. "What do you want to talk about?" "I wanted to apologize. And to ask you a question." "Apologize for what? The affair? The fraud? Trying to destroy my career?" "You'll have to be more specific." She flinched. "All of it. I know I hurt you. I know I betrayed your trust. I know I tried to take everything from you, and I'm sorry." "Are you sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" "Both," she said quietly. "But mostly sorry I did it. I lost myself somewhere along the way. I became someone I don't even recognize." It was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. "What's your question?" "Why didn't you just divorce me? Why did you have to destroy everything?" I looked at her for a long moment. "Because you didn't just want to leave me, Lauren. You wanted to annihilate me. You wanted to take my job, my money, my reputation, my future. You wanted to erase me so completely that it would be like I never existed. So I decided to return the favor." She nodded slowly. "I deserved it." "Yes, you did. I'm going to prison, aren't I?" "Probably." The prosecutors seem pretty confident. "Van blames you for everything. He says you're vindictive and cruel." "Van can blame whoever he wants. He made his choices too." Lauren wrapped her arms around herself against the cold. "I used to think I was smart, smarter than everyone else. I thought I could control everything, manipulate every situation to my advantage. I never imagined that you'd fight back." "You never saw me clearly," I said. "You saw what you wanted to see, the accommodating husband, the passive partner, the man who would never challenge you. But I was always there, Lauren. I was always watching, always learning. You taught me everything I needed to know about corporate warfare. You just never thought I'd use those lessons against you." "I know, and now I'm facing 5 to 10 years in federal prison. Van won't even take my calls, and I've lost everything that ever mattered to me." "Not everything," I said. "You still have your pride." "Oh wait, no, that's gone too." It was cruel, but I wasn't feeling particularly charitable. "I should go," she said. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I understand why you did what you did. If our positions were reversed, I probably would have done the same thing." "No," I said. "You would have done worse." After she left, I poured myself a drink and sat in my living room, looking out at the yard where we'd once planned to build a garden together. The house felt different now, not empty, but peaceful. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. My phone buzzed. A text from Nina. "Drinks tonight? I have news about the new job." "Meant," I texted back. "Sure, I'll pick you up at 7. Life was moving forward. I had a new position at a tech startup, a book deal in negotiation, and the kind of reputation that opens doors. Lauren's betrayal had inadvertently given me everything I'd ever wanted professionally. But more than that, it had given me something I'd lost somewhere in our marriage: respect for myself. I'd spent years accommodating Lauren's ambitions, supporting her career, and accepting less than I deserved. Her betrayal had forced me to remember who I was and what I was capable of. The audit was complete. The books were balanced. And for the first time in years, the numbers added up in my favor. 3 months later, Lauren King was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for securities fraud, conspiracy, and violation of fiduciary duty. Van Dorsey received 3 years and was ordered to pay $2.1 million in restitution. The acquisition was permanently canceled, costing both companies millions in legal fees and lost opportunities. I watched the sentencing on the news from my new office in Cambridge. Lauren looked small and defeated in her orange jumpsuit, a far cry from the powerful executive who had once dominated boardrooms and commanded respect. Did I feel sorry for her? Maybe a little, but mostly I felt vindicated. Justice had been served, and the woman who had tried to destroy my life was finally facing the consequences of her actions. My assistant knocked on my office door. "Mr. Ortiz, your 3 o'clock is here." I turned off the news and prepared for my meeting. I had a company to help build, a book to write, and a future to create. The past was finally where it belonged, behind me. That evening, I drove home to my house in Newton, the same house Lauren and I had bought together but which now felt entirely mine. I poured a glass of wine and sat on the back deck, watching the sun set over the yard we'd never finished landscaping. My phone rang. It was Nina. "Did you see the news about the sentencing?" "Yeah, I saw it. How do you feel?" It was the question everyone kept asking, as if there was a simple answer to watching your former life partner get sentenced to federal prison. "I feel like I can finally move on," I said. "For the first time in years, I'm not looking over my shoulder, waiting for Lauren's next move. It's over." "Good. You deserve to be happy, Brendan. You deserve a life that isn't defined by what she did to you." After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness, thinking about the strange turns life can take. 18 months ago, I'd been a passive husband in a failing marriage, sleepwalking through a career that was going nowhere. Lauren's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also been liberating. It had forced me to fight for myself in ways I'd never imagined possible. The house was quiet around me, but it wasn't the oppressive silence of secrets and lies. It was the peaceful quiet of a man who had nothing to hide and no one to fear. I raised my glass to the empty yard and the dark sky beyond. "Here's to audits," I said aloud, "and to balancing the books." Somewhere in a federal prison, Lauren King was beginning her sentence. Somewhere in Connecticut, Van Dorsey was probably trying to rebuild his shattered life. And somewhere in Newton, Massachusetts, Brendan Ortiz was finally free.